Hello! So today I'm going to be talking about Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. So I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to try and sum up all my thoughts, feelings, my kind of general view in as quick a time as possible, saving those of you who are not up for listening to me rant for ages quite a lot of time. In a nutshell, this book is absolutely awful. It's incredibly derivative and the lead protagonist is an absolute dickhead and the king of cringe. However, I can't deny this book was fun. Was it fun because it was so awful? Or was it fun because I was genuinely enjoying it? I don't know. But that really doesn't stop the fact that I paid my money and I had a good time. Regardless of whether I was enjoying it because I enjoyed belittling it, yeah, I paid my money and I had fun. And even though it's incredibly derivative, at 700 pages plus, I flew through this novel and it was so stupid, but it kept me engaged. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but if there is another book in this series, yeah, I'm going to pick it up. So to sum up, for those of you not willing to wait around for the rambly rant, absolute dog shit, but I had fun. So let's go into a little bit more detail about Empire of the Vampire. Now, this novel was described to me as a cross between Interview with the Vampire and The Name of the Wind, and I really, really like both of those books, so I was like, cool, I'm in. And I suppose that description is accurate. Jay Kristoff is pulling from so many different sources in this book. It actually became quite a fun game thinking of, oh, I wonder what kind of film, TV show, or novel he's going to pull from next. Here's a list of the ones that I remembered to write down when they came to me. Blade, Dracula, Castlevania, The Name of the Wind, Interview with the Vampire, the computer game The Last of Us, Underworld, The Witcher, and pretty much every male action hero from the 1990s. The book focuses on a character called Gabriel, who is a silver saint, and he is half vampire, half human. The silver saints are a holy order of soldiers who battle against the rising empire of vampires. We start the book with Gabriel locked in a cell, and along comes this fancy vampire, who Gabriel calls Coldblood, and the vampire orders Gabriel to tell him the story of his life. So there we have that Name of the Wind, Interview with a Vampire framing device. We have quotes within quotes in the storytelling of this novel, as Gabriel's sort of telling the story in quotation, and then we have quotes of the characters within the story. It's just a bizarre storytelling device, but you kind of just roll with it, like most things in this book. Also, everyone's kind of French. Like, everyone sort of says we a lot, and there's lots of French names being thrown about. Now, this book isn't set in France, but it's just sort of chucked in there. And why not? I mean, French is a sexy language, an intellectual language, so maybe Jay Kristoff was thinking, how do I class up this book a little bit? I know, I'm going to throw some French into it. The most cringe sections of this book are when we jump back to Gabriel talking to this sort of fancy, high-up vampire in the prison cell. It's almost as if Kristoff was going for this kind of, let's have two very smart, very quick-witted people sort of battling out their intelligence together, but what we end up with is something that's just really, really cringy. I've written down some quotes here just so you have an idea of kind of what we're dealing with, with that sort of high cringe factor. Right, here we go. You're sailing awfully close to the shores of an island most cool. None of your fucking business. I will not give my heart to a coward. I'll give it to a lion. What kind of hero are you? Gabriel laughed, shaking his head. Who the fuck told you I was a hero? When you have nothing, you have nothing to lose. And this next one, this is going to come across as mean, but could be quite self-reflective of the author himself. Here we go. The only thing worse than a fool is a fool who thinks himself wise. So there you go. That's just some of the things that stood out to me. There are hundreds in this book, hundreds just like that. And if you like the sound of some of that, then pick this book up because there's a lot of that going on. There's also Gabriel likes to have this little phrase. It's almost his catchphrase called "fuck my face," and so like, just randomly something bad will happen and you'll be like, "Oh God, fuck my face." And Gabriel swears a lot, he curses a lot in this novel, and it just comes across as incredibly pathetic. There's no other word for it. It's just, you're reading it, or I read and listened to this, and I was just a bit, it's really pathetic. The language used in this book is probably aimed at 14 to 16-year-olds, maybe 17-year-olds from the 1990s. That's That's who this lead character is aimed at. It's like Kristoff loved male action heroes from the 90s with their tats and their kind of like their bad language. He loved them so much that he thought, yeah, I'm going to take all of that and put that into my lead character and make him as big a dickhead as possible. Because what makes a cool action hero? A man who fucking hates everybody and acts like a dick to everyone. But in 2023, that also just comes off as really sad, like really sad. But it made me laugh so much. It brought me so much joy getting angry at this stupid character. But let's take a step in a different direction, because it's very easy for me to sort of sit here, turn on my camera and just rant and belittle this piece of work because there's so much within it that's easy to belittle. But Jay Kristoff is doing some good things. I would say, yes, not great, not brilliant, but he's doing some good things in this book, which is why I read all of it. I thought the pacing was solid. It moved at a really good pace. And the prose, although some of the language used was awful, the prose was kind of clean and kept flowing really nicely. I liked how structurally this book sort of jumped around time-wise. It wasn't a simple autobiographical, let's start at the beginning and work our way all the way through. No, this book actually told a story how we tend to tell stories. We tend to time jump when we tell stories. We'll sort of tell a little bit and then we'll go to the next bit and we'll go, oh wait, but I forgot to tell you this bit, or maybe there's this section. And structurally that led to some really interesting reveals and kind of kept me hooked and engaged all the way through. I like how Kristoff isn't afraid to approach some of the more violent aspects. It is a vampire story after all, so we have the blood, the guts, the violence, and lots of action. I also like the fact that he's not afraid to kill off some of his lead characters, which again kept me really engaged. So I've been struggling to kind of figure out, how do I rate a book like this? A book that was so obviously awful but brought me so much enjoyment. Do you rate it on the enjoyment factor, or do you rate it for the piece of literature that it is? And I think I'm going to fall somewhere in the middle and give it 2.5 stars. In essence, this is a 0.5 or 1-star book. It is awful and the lead character is absolutely abhorrent. But enjoyment factor, I was laughing my arse off constantly laughing, constantly writing things down, tears coming out of my eyes of how bad it is. And I had such a fun time doing that. So, you know, in that sense, it's probably 4 stars, 5 stars, you know? So I think a kind of like a 2.5 to 2.5 is a good place to place this book. So a couple of things before I wrap up this video. Number one, have you read this book? And if so, what did you think about it? Did you hate it as much as me, or did you kind of love it? Yeah, let me know. And number two, I am really interested in hearing your thoughts on your favourite guilty pleasures. So what are the books that you have read that you know are absolute turd? They are awful, but they bring you loads of joy and you really enjoy reading them. Please list them in the comments below. I am so intrigued to find out what yours are. So there you go. That was Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this in any way, please hit the old thumbs up or subscribe and all that jazz, and I will see you all on the next one.